The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. My name is John David Wells. We woke up on Thursday, July 13th, 2023. What do we do here? We report the news, honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We make commentary, which is not news. That's opinion, yours and mine. And so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Thanks very much for joining us. Time for the Wells Report front page, a digest of news that happened while we were sleeping or after the Wells Report went off the air at 11 o'clock Central Time yesterday. As predicted by this reporter, it was a tough day for FBI Director Christopher Wray. He defended his agency against House Republicans who argued that it suppressed conservative posts on social media and for running what they called illegal searches about U.S. citizens under the FISA law. The hearing became the latest flashpoint for the FBI, which Republicans criticized for investigating participants at school board meetings or censoring social media posts. Democrats accused Republicans of trying to protect former President Donald Trump, who faces federal charges related to possession of national security documents after an FBI search of Mar-a-Lago 18 months after he left the White House. The Biden White House said that Republicans are attacking law enforcement. In his opening statement, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan cited a federal court decision in Louisiana 8 days earlier that found the government suppressed First Amendment rights of people posting on social media about the COVID-19 pandemic vaccines and mask requirements, under a policy that Jordan compared to an Orwellian ministry of truth. Republican lawmakers erupted yesterday after learning about a 2015 email chain that predated President Biden's now infamous 2015 trip to Ukraine, when a Burisma Holdings executive revealed the ultimate purpose of Hunter Biden's involvement with the Ukrainian energy concern. 1 month before then Vice President Joe Biden traveled to Ukraine, where he threatened to withhold $1 billion in U.S. aid if Ukrainian leaders did not fire their top prosecutor. Hunter Biden and Burisma executives were discussing a contract for counter-messaging against any federal investigations into Burisma's founder and then President Mykola Zlochevsky. On November 2nd, 2015, Burisma executive Vadim Pozharsky emailed Hunter Biden, who was serving as a Burisma board member, his associates Devin Archer, a fellow board member, and Rosemont Seneca Partners President Eric Schwerin, about a revised proposal. This is a quote, a revised proposal, contract, and initial invoice for Burisma Holdings from lobbying group Blue Star Strategies. This according to emails from Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop, which has been verified by Fox News. Speaking of Fox News, which recently settled two high-profile legal challenges for around $800 million, they're facing a defamation and false light lawsuit from a man who said the network presented him as a scapegoat for the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Ray Epps attended the pro-Trump rallies in Washington in January 2021, but was not among the people found to have breached the Capitol building and has not been charged for his conduct, at least so far. In subsequent weeks, then Fox News host Tucker Carlson highlighted a video clip of the Arizona man outside the Capitol to suggest that Epps may have been a government informant, a notion that Epps and the FBI have both strongly denied. Fox, and particularly Mr. Carlson, commenced a years-long campaign spreading falsehoods about Epps, according to the lawsuit, claiming that Epps and his wife Robin have had their lives destroyed by those false claims. The lawsuit, which was indeed filed in Delaware, claims that Fox and Carlson knew that Epps was most definitely not a federal agent, but chose to disregard the knowledge, therefore arguing the network acted with actual malice, the standard necessary to win a defamation case against a public entity. Senator Joe Manchin made a trip to what was called a no-labels political event in the first of the nation primary state of New Hampshire. And that has some Democrats worried he might be a spoiler third-party candidate, reminiscent of the late Texas industrialist Ross Perot. Manchin, the Democrat from West Virginia, who has not announced his official intent to run for Senate re-election in 2024, is seen as one of the last of the 20th century-style moderates in the Democrat caucus. The senator recently told reporters his participation at the event is not a formal indication of third-party intentions, but then he later added he's never ruled out anything or ruled in anything. It was strictly a conference that we were having, he said. He also rejected claims that he would be akin to Perot, whose right-leaning populist campaign siphoned off votes from the GOP nominee, President George H.W. Bush, in 1992. For Manchin, should he run for election to the U.S. Senate, political observers point out that he may have a tough time in a state where former President Donald Trump won by 40 points and where the popular incumbent governor, Jim Justice, began his tenure in office as a Democrat, but then switched to the GOP while embracing President Trump. Elsewhere in politics, Republican candidate for President Vivek Ramaswamy, in an interview with Fox News, said that the construction of the wall at the southern border is not enough to stop the outgoing or ingoing migrant crisis. He believes the military should be deployed at both the southern border and possibly the northern border. Ramaswamy said that if elected, he would deploy troops to the southern and northern borders. Quote, I would use our own military to secure our own southern border. I think that it is legally, ethically, and constitutionally justified. This is how we seal the southern border. In fact, I think it's going to be an approach that we will eventually need to seal our northern border as well. Speaking of immigration, a new Illinois law set to go into effect at the beginning of 2024 will ban landlords from discriminating against potential tenants on the basis of their immigration status. Illinois Democrat Governor J.B. Pritzker signed Senate Bill 1817 into law last month, which will add protections in the Illinois Human Rights Act for housing regarding immigration status, protection, and discriminatory advertising. The law was part of several pieces of legislation that Pritzker signed last month, including another law aimed at giving undocumented immigrants access to state driver's licenses. The bill replaces the current temporary visitor's driver's license with a standard license that lasts 4 years, a move that will impact over 300,000 people who currently hold the temporary license. Quote, this legislation is a significant step in eliminating barriers to opportunity that many undocumented migrants face. This, according to Governor Pritzker in a statement after signing the driver's license bill. We are ensuring that every eligible individual can obtain a driver's license, making our roads safer, decreasing stigma, and creating more equitable systems for all. The effort to expand housing rights and so on to undocumented immigrants was led by Democrat State Senator Ann Gillespie. In health news today, ABC News is reporting the Food and Drug Administration has approved the first birth control pill in the United States that can be sold without a prescription. The progestin-only pill called Opill is made by French drug maker HRA Pharma and its parent company Perrigo, and the approval is a first-of-its-kind move by federal regulators. It comes after an independent advisory panel agreed that this spring that the drug was safe for most patients. Doctors say that progestin-only pills, known as the mini pill, pose fewer medical risks than combination pills that rely on estrogen. Today's approval marks the first time a non-prescription daily oral contraceptive will be an available option for millions of people in the U.S., said Dr. Patrizia Cavazzoni, the director of the FDA's Center for Drug Evaluation and Research. When used as directed, daily oral contraception is safe and is expected to be more effective than currently available non-prescription contraceptive methods. in preventing unintended pregnancy. One concern raised by FDA advisors, however, had been that whether consumers, particularly young teens, will adequately screen themselves for potential medical risks. A total of 1.3 billion people across the world are expected to be diagnosed with diabetes by 2050. That would be more than double the current diagnoses of 529 million. This, according to a paper published in the British medical journal The Lancet. Researchers found that roughly 96% of diabetics had type 2, noting the increase in prevalence is primarily due to a rise in obesity. The figures are based on analysis from more than 27,000 sources from 204 countries and territories. The predicted increase would represent a jump in the global prevalence of the disease from 6% of the world's population as of 2021 to 10% in the next quarter of a century. The costs incurred are scarcely ever borne by the major multinational corporations who promote unhealthy food, diet, and even body positivity, the glorification of what they say is morbid obesity. More than 37,000, make that 37 million Americans, slightly more than 10%, already have diabetes. This according to the CDC and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In Britain, the prevalence of the disease has already increased from 100 to 1 in 12 people over the last 35 years. 100 to 1 to 12 to 100 to 1 to, that doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, this is gobbledygook. From 100 to 1 to, I believe, from 1% to 12% over the last 35 years. I'll double check that and get that worked out for you. Also, this is, speaking of things of this nature, well-known donut chain Krispy Kreme Donuts was founded in North Carolina today in history, July 13th, 1937. The company founder, Vernon Rudolph, bought a secret yeast-raised donut recipe from a New Orleans French chef, said the website for Krispy Kreme. Rudolph set up a donut factory in present-day Old Salem in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and began to sell donuts to area grocery stores, according to the chain's website. Quote, the delicious sense of cooking donuts drifted into the streets, and passerbys stopped to ask if they could buy some of the hot donuts. Rudolph created the first Krispy Kreme storefront by cutting a hole in the wall of his building, then allowing people to buy a glazed donut right there on the sidewalk. Since then, Krispy Kreme has become one of the most beloved and well-known sweet treat brands in the entire world. So Krispy Kreme donuts, a staple of a young John David Wells when he was being raised in North Carolina. For the longest time, I didn't realize there were any other kinds of donuts. And I then, as I was growing through my life, I was trying to figure out, why did donuts change? How come they just weren't as good as they used to be? And I suddenly realized that's because they weren't Krispy Kreme donuts. When Krispy Kreme did their IPO and moved forward with what is a national chain of donuts, there was much rejoicing in the Wells Report house. I've got to be perfectly honest with you. I love those donuts. I think they're the very best in the world, although many people disagree. I can't see why. I just don't understand why people don't flock to Krispy Kreme. And if indeed you feel like you want to work on your upcoming case of diabetes, that might be a great way to start your day while you're headed to work. Stop by a Krispy Kreme and get yourself a donut. I think they're giving them away free today. That could be the case. This is the Wells Report front page. We give you a news digest as we start our day. We'll move on to further examinations of some of these stories as we go through Thursday, July 13th, 2023. I have trouble with numbers. Have you noticed? Yeah, I have trouble with numbers. By the way, for you TGIF fans, sure happy it's Thursday. This is the Wells Report, back with more in just a moment.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Good morning and welcome to the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We give you the news, and we're doing so in something called the Wells Report front page. If you have not gone to Substack, we do some commentary on these stories, and we put it up on Substack every single day. You can check that out. Go to substack.com and just do a search for the Wells Report. This is something that we've been following here in Texas for quite a while. There is a very good man who was appointed the Texas Attorney General. And in his capacity as the Texas Attorney General, he spent a great deal of time being very successful against President Joe Biden's political agenda. Suddenly, he found himself in very big trouble here in the state of Texas with what is purported to be misconduct in office. Some of these charges are very, very serious. So much so that the Texas House of Representatives impeached Ken Paxton as the Attorney General of this state. What was fascinating about it is that there was no coverage of any of the evidence reminiscent of the January 6th so-called hearings in Washington, D.C. There was no evidence presented. Well, it's been 2 months since the Texas House and its leftist impeachment managers targeted the state's Attorney General, Ken Paxton. Now, remember, this is from the National Pulse. This appears to be a bit biased, but you can determine that for yourself. It's been 2 months since the Texas House and its leftist impeachment managers targeted the state's Attorney General, Ken Paxton, in a scheme that makes President Donald Trump's first foray into the same experience seem positively transparent. It's been 53 days. There are still no answers as to why, on what grounds, the Texas House Speaker, Dade Phelan, has been dragging one of the most popular American figures in the country through the process. Or perhaps Paxton's American First credentials are, in fact, the answer here. Perhaps you can find out by giving the Speaker's office a call. Up to this point, even Paxton's legal counsel is struggling to get answers which, by the way, are required under Texas law. People have a right to know what they're being charged with and any evidence related to those charges. But again, 2 months on, there hasn't been much as some vaguely defined drafted articles of impeachment, which include catch-all phraseology such as disregard for official duty and the evergreen obstruction of justice. In this case, however, it appears to be the prosecutors obstructing justice. The prosecutors are obstructing justice and the pursuit of it. Paxton's lawyer, Tony Busby, blasted them on the matter this very week in a lengthy statement. At the direction of the Texas House Speaker Dade Phelan and with the guidance of lawyers from the Obama administration, Biden Justice Department, the House voted to impeach Attorney General Ken Paxton after what can be only described as a secretive and now discredited sham investigation. Now House managers appointed by Phelan, including Andrew Murr, Briscoe Cain, and Cody Vasud, continue to disregard individual rights and due process guaranteed by the First Amendment, Sixth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, and the Texas Constitution by withholding basic information they are legally required to disclose. We have demanded this information, to which Attorney General Ken Paxton is entitled. In every court in the country, this type of information would be freely exchanged by prosecutors, and we have demanded that it be produced. The House has ignored our demands and the Attorney General's constitutional rights. We are known to Attorney General Ken Paxton. As a matter of fact, he and I have spent an awful lot of time on this broadcast discussing the issues of the day. I will reach out to him and see if we cannot put him on this broadcast to get his viewpoint. And yes, indeed, we will call the Speaker of the House, the Speaker of the Texas House, Dade Phelan, and ask for more information. I wonder if that will be successful. This is the Wells Report. That's the Wells Report front page. Thanks very much as we get things rolling on Thursday, July 13th, year of our Lord 2022. We'll be back with more coming up in just a couple of moments. 2023. I'm sneaking up on it.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA. The only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877 655 6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. It's Thursday, the longest workday of the week. It's not Friday yet, so we can't just basically slapdash our way around what we're doing. All I can tell you is that it's Thursday and we actually have to be productive. So by all means, let's. Shall we? Maybe not. Gary Absher says the true measurement of fitness is not what you weigh, or it's how your clothes fit. Do you feel good in your clothes? I'm working on it. I'm shooting for a loose 36-inch waist. Okay. Well, yeah, I guess that works. I've discovered that the joy of slimming down is simply not eating. I'm now trying to get all the nutrients necessary for my life by absorbing them through the air. So there you go. Thank you, Gary. That's a very nice comment. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much for joining us on the Wells Report. So there is a story out there today that has to do with what happened yesterday. And what happened yesterday was a disaster for, in my humble opinion, a disaster for the FBI. The director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, appeared before the House Judiciary Committee and was roundly criticized by Republicans in ways that were, okay, eye-watering. They were eye-watering. They were, the things that were brought up were defenseless.
There's one
In other
simple
words,
hearing
excuse me
act.
just a second. Thank you. They were indefensible, not defenseless. They were indefensible. They were, in point of fact, harsh. And once again, I don't think that Christopher Wray had any answers except his idea that rank and file FBI agents and workers are some of the greatest patriots on the planet. The thing about it is that in order to be one of the greatest patriots on the planet, you sort of kind of have to follow the Constitution, or at least the standards of your country. And that is not something that Christopher Wray was able to acquit himself of, again, in my opinion, yesterday. He defended his agency against House Republicans who said it suppressed conservative posts on social media and for running what they called illegal searches about U.S. citizens under a foreign surveillance law. It's the FISA law. The hearing became the latest flashpoint for the FBI. Republicans are criticizing it for investigating participants at school board meetings or censoring social media posts. Democrats accused Republicans of trying to protect former President Donald Trump, who faces federal charges related to possession of national security documents. This after an FBI search of Mar-a-Lago 18 months after he left the White House. A White House spokesman said Republicans are attacking law enforcement. In his opening salvo, and once again, we have to point out the bias in this. This is from USA Today. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan cited a federal court decision in Louisiana 8 days ago that found the government suppressed First Amendment rights of people posting on social media about COVID-19 and mask requirements under a policy the ruling compared to an Orwellian Ministry of Truth. That was a heart-stopping moment. The ruling found the FBI failed to alert social media companies that a story about Hunter Biden's laptop was real rather than Russian disinformation days before the 2020 presidential election. Representative Jordan and Mike Johnson of Louisiana said that deprived millions of voters of information before the election. Indeed, there was reporting that said many Americans would have changed their vote had they had that information. When the court said the FBI misled, that's a nice way of saying they lied, said Mr. Jordan. Wray said he reviewed the decision and said the FBI would comply with the court's prohibition against influencing social media companies, but declined to comment further because the case is subject to further litigation. In my view, this established a pattern that was used throughout the hearing where Christopher Wray looked unprepared, unready to answer questions that were easily anticipatable. And it was a circumstance where he dodged and evaded and was not acting in good faith. I found that to be more damaging than the innuendo before the hearing. As it turns out, most of what Republicans were saying, and once again, this is not a partisan broadcast, this is just my observation. What ended up happening is that the FBI really looked awful after the testimony of Christopher Wray. And that's an agency that, again, I said months ago, if not a year ago, that if they started at that particular date, it would take at least a decade, maybe two, maybe three decades to be able to rehabilitate their reputation with the people of the United States. The use of FBI law enforcement, if there is such a thing, is political. It is obvious. And it's not something that is reliant on right-wing news sources. It's simple fact. It's simple logic as you look at what they have been doing that is totally antithetical to the First Amendment of the United States in the case of the school board members, and looks like essentially a political hit squad in case you happen to be Donald Trump or Republicans. So I don't know how they're going to fix this, but they're certainly not going to be able to expect any kind of help based on Christopher Wray's testimony of yesterday. It was awful. Wray said he reviewed the decision, said that he would comply with this Louisiana decision that said that the FBI or other three-letter agencies in the executive branch, he would indeed comply with that decision. Then he said this: our focus is on malign foreign disinformation. That is foreign malign information. That is hostile foreign actors who engage in covert actions to confuse our social media platforms. The FBI is not in the business of moderating content or causing any social media company to suppress or censor. Again, that is simply not true. It's documented that it's not true. There were weekly meetings with social media decision makers regarding the content on their social media platforms. It was political. There's no other conclusion. There's no other conclusion to be made. It was simply a case where the FBI didn't want anything to contravene what was White House or Democrat policy. I don't see how there could be any other interpretation of the fact. But if you happen to have one, join us. 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. We're waiting for your call. He went on to say the FBI is not in the business of moderating or content or causing any social media company to suppress or censor. As I said, that is nonsensical. Jordan said Republicans and potential Democrats would oppose the reauthorization of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which is scheduled to expire at the end of the year because of 204,000 episodes of illegal scrutiny of U.S. citizens. And then there was Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz was one of the true firebrands in this hearing. We were not able to show that yesterday in our coverage of the Judiciary Committee hearing with Christopher Wray because we were in a news break at the time. But I have it here, and you should watch it. And so we'll present it to you here on the Wells Report. This is Matt Gaetz. He is a representative from Florida questioning Christopher Wray about what the FBI has been up to and what their current policies are.
The American people need to understand what just happened. My Democrat colleague just asked the director of the FBI whether or not they are buying information about our fellow Americans. And the answer is, well, we'll just have to get back to you on that. It sounds really complicated, but I have other questions. I'm sitting here with my father. I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. Sounds like a shakedown, doesn't it, Director?
No one believed it at first, but now everyone wants one.
You seem deeply uncurious about it, don't you? Almost suspiciously uncurious. Are you protecting the Bidens?
Absolutely not. The FBI does not and has no interest in
you won't answer the
protecting
question
anyone
about whether or not
politically.
that's a shakedown, and everybody knows why you won't answer it. Because to the millions of people who will see this, they know it is. And your inability to acknowledge that is deeply revealing about you. But let's go from the uncurious to the downright nosy. How many illegal FISA queries have occurred under your leadership of the FBI?
Well, there are reports that have come out with different numbers about compliance incidents.
More than 1 million illegal ones? Because that's what the Inspector General said. The Inspector General said that in the 3.4 million of these queries, more than 1 million were in error. Do you have any basis to disagree with that assessment by the Inspector General?
I'm not sure actually that's a correct characterization of the Inspector General's findings on that.
The internet will remind you of that in moments. But let's now go to what the court said. The court said it was over 200,000 that have occurred on your watch. Do you have any basis to disagree with that assessment?
Again, I don't have the number as I sit here right now. What I can
Seems
tell
like
you,
a number you should know. How many times the FBI is breaking the law under your watch, especially if it's like over 1 million, to not know that number? And I'm worried about your veracity on the subject as well. Play the video.
letters for
You going to the
investigation
FISA
of
court?
the Capitol.
Or you
I don't
going-
believe FISA is remotely implicated in our investigation.
So there, Senator Lee's asking you whether or not FISA was in any way involved in your January 6th investigation, and you say no. Was that truthful?
I said that I did not believe it was.
Okay, so now let's pull up what the court said, which was something a little different than what you said. So here, nope, that's not the right one. Yeah, here we go. Right there, it says, the government has reported additional significant violations of the querying standard, including several relating to the January 6, 2021 breach of the Capitol. So I guess the question, Director Wray, is did you not know when you were answering these questions that the FBI was engaging in these illegal searches, or did you perjure yourself to Senator Lee?
I certainly didn't perjure myself. At the time that I testified in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I didn't have that piece of information. I will add.
Well, that was a court order. You didn't have that piece of information because the court hadn't yet rendered a judgment. Did you not know when you gave the untruthful answer before Senator Lee that this was going on?
It was a truthful answer. I did not believe FISA had been involved in the January 6th
But it was.
investigation.
So you didn't. The answer is the FBI has broken so bad that people can go and engage in queries that when you come before the Congress to answer questions, you're like blissfully ignorant. You're blissfully ignorant as to the unlawful queries. You're blissfully ignorant as to the Biden shakedown regime. And it just seems like it gets into a kind of a creepy place as well. Go to our next image on what the court said. Like, just so the American people realize, the court has smacked you down, alleging or ruling FBI personnel apparently conducted queries for improper personal reasons. People were looking themselves up. They were looking their ex-lovers up. Who has been held accountable or fired as a consequence of the FBI using the FISA process as their like creepy personal snoop machine?
There have been instances in which individuals have had disciplinary action and who
Name
are no
them.
longer with it. I can't get into it here, but we can follow back up
But
with
don't you
that.
see that that's kind of the thing, Director Wray, that you preside over the FBI that has the lowest level of trust in the FBI's history. People trusted the FBI more when J. Edgar Hoover was running the place than when you are. And the reason is because you don't give straight answers. You give answers that later a court deems aren't true. And then at the end of the day, you won't criticize an obvious shakedown when it's directly in front of us. And it appears as though you're whitewashing the conduct of corrupt people.
Respectfully, Congressman, in your home state of Florida, the number of people applying to come work for us and devote their lives working for us is up over 100%.
We're deeply proud of them, and they deserve better than you.
And that was Representative Gates yesterday excoriating the director of the FBI, Christopher Wray. And that points out a couple of different things. He's discussing the improper use of FISA law by FBI agents, numbering in the millions, according to the FBI IG, the Inspector General. He's talking about that. And the response from the FBI director was how recruiting for FBI jobs in Florida was up over 100%. Well, once again, those percentages are a little bit suspect insofar as if you had 2 people applying last year and you now have 4 people applying, my goodness gracious, the applications are up 100%. And then he keeps pointing out, I wasn't aware of this. We'll get back to you on that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I know exactly what he's doing, or at least I think I know exactly what he's doing. What he's doing is he does not want all this information spilled out on national television. And therefore, what he was doing was obfuscating, evading, and simply looking unprepared. If you're the director of the FBI, you better have everything in the bag before you open your mouth. That doesn't seem to be a skill possessed by the guy running the most powerful law enforcement agency in the United States of America, which seems to have descended into politics as opposed to pursuing law enforcement. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We'll be back with more coming up in just a moment. You stay right there.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
This is the Wells Report. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch if you'd like to opine on the chat room. You can also find us on Patreon and Rumble later on today. We will put these broadcasts up on those platforms. And if you have a comment that you'd like to make, send me an email, thewellsreport@frontier.com. The Wells Report, all common spelling, just all lowercase, one word, thewellsreport@frontier.com. There were reactions aside from mine to yesterday's testimony by Christopher Wray. Representative Russell Fry, the Republican from South Carolina, a member of the House Judiciary Committee, told Newsmax that the committee's ranking member, Representative Gerald Nadler, was wrong to criticize the questioning of FBI Director Christopher Wray as performance art, which is what the representative from New York immediately did. Wray was grilled by Republicans during the hearing over the perception the FBI has been weaponized against conservatives and indeed had attacked the free speech rights of Americans from one end of the country to the other. Nadler said it was performance art and an elaborate show designed with only two purposes in mind: protect Donald Trump from the consequences of his actions and to return him to the White House in the next election. Obviously, Donald Trump is living rent-free inside Jerry Nadler's head. There is no doubt about that. And all I can tell you is this. This performance art question came from a guy who took part in what were laughingly called January 6th hearings from the January 6th committee. He took part in all of that. Excuse me, when you hire a former ABC entertainment director to create the very slick Hollywood-style production of your January 6th congressional meetings, that's performance art. But once again, these people are very, very adept at accusing others of what they do themselves. And once again, this is not a partisan broadcast. I absolutely hate where the Democrat Party has descended. I absolutely do. As a matter of fact, without a strong, vibrant, popular Democrat Party, the Republican Party gets away with nonsense. The political process in this nation, in my opinion, is atrocious. It's worthless. It's nearly valueless. Indeed, I believe it harms more than it helps. And to sit there and try to describe what Christopher Wray did yesterday as anything except a disaster for the FBI is ignoring reality. Speaking of that, Rex Hupke immediately started ignoring reality. The headline is fascinating. Gone in 60 seconds. At FBI director's hearing, Republican conspiracies about Biden go poof. Really? Yeah, Rex Hupke and I have kind of a love-hate relationship. You know, there are times when he makes brilliant points, and I point them out. And there are times when he's completely off the rails and ignorant of the reality around him. Listen to this. House Republicans are convinced the FBI and Department of Justice and basically any law enforcement agency that hasn't found President Joe Biden guilty of being a global criminal mastermind is corrupt, all caps, corrupt, I tell you, and in cahoots with Democrats. But the steaming hot conspiracy bubbles belching up from the right-wing fever swamps are occasionally pierced by facts, and a rather thunderous bubble popping took place yesterday during a House Judiciary Committee featuring FBI Director Christopher Wray. The overall tenor of the Republican lawmakers during the hearing: you guys totally fomented the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, did you? Didn't you? And you all hate Donald Trump too, don't you? And you all love Joe Biden too, huh? Matt Gaetz railed against Wray and the FBI for not finding greater criminality in the action of his president's son, or the president's son, Hunter Biden, and for not linking Joe Biden with hysterical evidence-free allegations that Republicans have cooked up. Rex, buddy, you're practicing misinformation. If I was YouTube, or if I was Facebook, or if I was the old Twitter, I might just label you as someone passing out misinformation and essentially take you off the platform. But since I'm an American, and since I actually believe in the First Amendment and your right to make a fool of yourself, I'll be more than happy to share your interesting viewpoint. Rex, Republicans haven't cooked up information. There are over 100 suspicious incident reports filed by the American banking system. That point out very strange circumstances surrounding the finances of the Biden family and the movement of money. Further, Hunter Biden has accepted a plea deal, or wants to accept a plea deal that calls into question his ability to pay his taxes or be forthright with the money that he's earned. These are government documents. This is not Republican cooking up anything-ness. What are you doing, Rex? Just report the story. Just report the story. The people will figure it out. You don't have to do their thinking for them. And nothing went poof yesterday except any kind of recovery that the FBI might have hoped to try to foment with Christopher Wray's testimony. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. This is the Wells Report. Coming up in just a couple of seconds, there's an email chain with Hunter Biden's name on it. A lot of Republicans are incredibly activated by that. We'll tell you why next. This is the Wells Report. Thanks very much for joining us. Back in just a moment.
tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Do you own a timeshare? At first, maybe it seemed like a great investment, but then you realized a lot of the promises made to you were simply not true. A little later, you started receiving the monthly maintenance fees and additional associated bills they failed to mention when you signed the agreement. And now their fees keep rising. Your times to actually use the timeshare keep shrinking, and the resort has no interest in letting you out of the agreement. Your vacation dream has turned into a timeshare nightmare, an overwhelming, never-ending financial obligation that will fall on your children after you're gone. And it seems as if there is no way out. Well, here's some great news. There is a way out. The Timeshare Exit Hotline has helped hundreds of people just like you, desperate people who thought they were stuck in this burden forever. Although most professionals in the timeshare industry are legitimate, there are those that use aggressive, sometimes even misleading sales tactics to try and trick innocent people into signing their lives away. We've heard many stories of people who have been lied to and others who were kept in a room for over 10 hours, not provided water or anything to eat, pressured until they were exhausted. These people finally signed a contract just to get out of there. If you're one of the unfortunate people who have been roped into a timeshare nightmare and feel there is no way out, call the number on your screen right now. When we take your case, it means we are highly confident that we can win. We'll provide you with an affordable, one-time fixed fee and our 100% client satisfaction guarantee. Now you don't have to face arrogant, aggressive salespeople alone. We're experts in consumer protection, real estate, and contract law. Even if they bullied you into an agreement, rest assured they're not going to bully us. So don't wait. Call us right now. Even if you've tried another company that failed you, call us. Our track record of successful negotiations speaks for itself. The call is free, the information is free, and there is absolutely no obligation. A single phone call could free you of this burden. So don't wait. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline right now. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We report the news here honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. I make commentary. You make commentary. They're just opinions. We share them in debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Thanks very much for being a part of our broadcast today. This story has been out since last week. We have been watching it on the Wells Report, waiting for something to happen, and indeed something has. Republican lawmakers reacted strongly after learning about a 2015 email chain that predated President Biden's infamous 2015 trip to Ukraine, when a Burisma Holdings executive revealed what he called the ultimate purpose, or what Republicans call the ultimate purpose, of Hunter Biden's involvement in the Ukrainian energy company. 1 month before then Vice President Joe Biden traveled to Ukraine, where he threatened to withhold $1 billion in U.S. aid if Ukrainian leaders did not fire their top prosecutor, which at the time was going after Burisma. Hunter Biden and Burisma executives were discussing and executing a contract for counter messaging against any federal investigations into Burisma's founder and then president, Mykola Zlochevsky. By the way, to quote, counter message against any federal investigation into anything for money is influence peddling. This email chain may indeed be, or at least this particular email may be, a smoking gun. And we will see. Quote, the sequence of events that led to the firing of Viktor Shokin and the subsequent comments by then Vice President Biden raised serious concerns as to what machinations were really at play and were purposefully concealed from the American people, according to Representative Virginia Foxx, the Republican from North Carolina. That statement is true. The assertions in that statement are true. Ms. Foxx sits on the House Oversight and Accountability Committee, told Fox News Digital, no matter how you slice Hunter Biden's involvement, it screams public corruption at the highest levels and must be fully investigated. Quote, the calm, judicious, steady reveal of incredibly condemning evidence that clearly incriminates the Biden crime family and will eventually alarm even the most ardent supporters of this White House occupier, said Representative Clay Higgins, the Republican from Louisiana, also a committee member. Our president is compromised. He should resign and be forever condemned, and the Democrat Party should begin rebuilding itself. November 2nd, 2015, Burisma executive Vadim Pozarsky emailed Hunter Biden, who was serving as a Burisma board member, his associates Devin Archer, fellow board member, and Rosemont Seneca Partners president Eric Schwerin, about a revised proposal, contract, and initial invoice for Burisma Holdings from lobbying firm Blue Star Strategies, according to emails from Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop. All of those, which the laptop has been verified by Fox News Digital and just about everybody else. Pozarski emphasized in the email the ultimate purpose of the agreement with Blue Star Strategies was to shut down, quote, any cases, pursuits against Nikolai in Ukraine. This referring to Nikolai Zlochevsky, who also went by the name Nikolai. This was amazing. Here is the email itself. Let me see if I can, I don't know that I can bring this up. Let me see if I can do that. Well, okay. Dear colleagues, hope you are well. Thank you for the documents provided. I've analyzed them most carefully and came up with the following observations. The first thing is the suggested scope of work is largely lacking concrete, tangible results that we set out to achieve in the first place, mostly focusing on the process. Also, it doesn't offer any names of top U.S. officials here in Ukraine, for instance, the U.S. ambassador, or Ukraine officials, the president of Ukraine, chief of staff, prosecutor general, as key targets for improving Nikolai's case and his situation in Ukraine. If, however, this is done deliberately to be on the safe and cautious side, I can understand the rationale. And if all parties, in fact, understand the purpose of their BS engagement, that's Burisma Holdings engagement, and our joint efforts, it's okay, and we should proceed immediately. My only concern is for us to be on the same page as our final goals. With this in mind, I would like to formulate a list of deliverables, including but not limited to a concrete course of action, including meetings, communications resulting in high-ranking U.S. officials in Ukraine, the U.S. ambassador, and in the U.S. publicly or in private communications expressing their, quote, positive opinion and support of Nikolai and Burisma Holdings to the highest level of decision makers here in Ukraine, President of Ukraine, President, Chief of Staff, Prosecutor Generals, etc. The scope of this work would also or should also include organization of a visit of a number of widely recognized and influential current and former U.S. policymakers to Ukraine in November, aiming to conduct messaging and meetings with and bring positive signal messages to Nikolai's support, or the support of Nikolai's issue to Ukrainian top officials above, with the ultimate purpose to close down for any cases, pursuits against Nikolai and Burisma Holdings. Looking forward to your feedback. That is a contract. That is a statement of purpose and mission for influence peddling involving the Bidens. That is classic influence peddling and deliverables. That's it. That's the case. Is it probable cause? At least. Where is the grand jury? Where is the grand jury looking at this evidence? Where is it? Which takes us right back to Christopher Wray. And Christopher Wray is a guy who has absolutely no problem whatsoever obfuscating, evading, etc. serious questions. Now, I understand why he didn't do it, because he doesn't have an answer. In fact, there is no answer. There's no answer as to why a grand jury has not been convened. There's none. This is what influence peddling, bribery looks like. This is it. Unbelievable. Upon joining Burisma, Hunter Biden reportedly connected the company with Blue Star Strategies, which was a Biden LLC, to help the firm fight corruption charges levied against Zlochevsky. The firm reportedly came under federal investigation from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware in 2021 for its lobbying practices. At the same office, led by U.S. Attorney David Weiss, is leading the federal investigation into Hunter Biden's business dealings. Quote, I would tell Vadim that this is definitely done deliberately to be on the safe and cautious side, and that Sally and company understand the scope and deliverables, Schwerin wrote to Hunter Biden and Archer the same day, forwarding Pozarski's message. And that will be having regular, daily, weekly, monthly opportunities to be in through conference calls or memos to be continually refining and updating the scope. That's an agreement. That's an agreement for bribery in writing. How is this a Republican concoction? Did Republicans alter evidence? As far as we know, no. When going after Donald Trump, was the FBI guilty of altering evidence? Yes. So once again, where are we in this? Where is this situation? What are we doing? Hunter Biden responded to Pozarski saying he wanted to have one last conversation with Blue Star, but later said he was comfortable with Blue Star. You should go ahead and sign. He wrote on November 5th, 2015. Looking forward to getting started on this, replied Hunter Biden. The email exchange came 1 month before then Vice President Biden traveled to Ukraine's capital of Kiev, where he gave a speech about rooting out corruption in politics ahead of the trip. The associate at Blue Star Strategies emailed Blue Star executives Hunter Biden, Archer, and Pozarski about a White House conference that outlined the trip's agenda and addressed several questions regarding U.S. policy toward Ukraine. During the trip, President Biden pressured Ukrainian officials to fire Shokin, the prosecutor investigating Zlochevsky at the time. Shokin was fired less than 4 months later in March of 2016. In February 2016, roughly 2 months after Biden's trip and 2 months before Shokin's firing, Hunter Biden thanked Zlochevsky in an email for the beautiful birthday gifts, which he described as far too extravagant. It's unclear what he had received from the Ukrainian tycoon. Biden would later boast on camera in 2018 that when he was vice president, he successfully pressured Ukraine to fire Shokin. The White House has repeatedly said Biden put pressure on Ukraine to fire Shokin because he was too lax on prosecuting corruption. However, Oversight Committee Republicans told Fox News the timing of the events is more than just a coincidence. Quote, I don't think Biden had Shokin fired because he was too lax on corruption, said Representative Tim Burchett, the Republican from Tennessee. I think Biden had him fired to cover his own tail when it comes to Biden family shady business dealings in Ukraine, and because Shokin was looking into Zlochevsky very seriously. It's not a coincidence that this email came out a month before his visit to Kiev. Our work with the Oversight Committee has not finished. Evidence makes it clear that Hunter Biden was only appointed to Burisma's board of directors because of his last name and family network, said Representative James Comer of Kentucky. Additionally, the FBI's Biden bribery record in dealing with an alleged extortion and bribery scheme between then Vice President Biden and a Burisma executive in exchange for certain actions mirrors the purpose of Hunter Biden's appointment. The Department of Justice has been sitting on a mountain of evidence pointing to the Biden's corruption for years, but has been engaged in a cover-up. We need to root out this politicization and misconduct at the Department of Justice and deliver answers, transparency, and accountability to the American people. Comer went on to say, the timeline in these emails further supports the conclusion that Burisma hired Hunter Biden to gain access to his father, said Representative Kelly Armstrong. They wanted a U.S. policymaker to take their side. They then got Vice President Joe Biden, who was in charge of Ukraine policy from the Obama administration. These emails raise even more questions that need answers. Additional emails heighten concerns about the question of whether then Vice President Biden was aware of his son Hunter's engagements, added Representative Glenn Grothman. He's a Republican from Wisconsin. Whether in Ukraine or China, it's difficult for Congress to rely on information from the executive branch with so many questions about whether our president and his family are compromised by foreign entities. The House Oversight Committee will continue conducting through investigations into the Biden family to determine the degree to which the Biden administration may be taking or making decisions for reasons other than to best serve the American public. These are strong statements. The rebuttal is to say that the Republicans are just concocting conspiracy theories to harm the Biden family. Okay. What do you think? What do you think? Tell me. 817-379-2172. Are these just mean old Republicans trying to take out a kindly old man and his family? Or is there, in this tired phrase, is there actually there? This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Chat room, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We will continue this broadcast in just a couple of moments. This is the Wells Report.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number is 817-379-2172. I'm at a loss to explain why federal law enforcement, the Department of Justice, is not moving forward with the information that is being published nearly daily that is backed up by hard evidence. Once again, Jerry Nadler says that Republicans are concocting all of this. Did they concoct this email chain? Now, I realize that there is a bit of hypocrisy going on with regards to the Republican Party presenting the information from Hunter Biden's laptop. There is a bit of hypocrisy. These are people that will absolutely excoriate the FBI and DOJ for having this information and not doing anything with it. On the same point, they also have that information and have not released all of it to the public except in dribs and drabs as the political circumstance evolves. Now, obviously, a political investigation is not a law enforcement one. But you would expect the DOJ and the FBI to move pretty quickly when it came to high public officials that are with all but a federal trial standing between what is a pretty decent logical conclusion and a guilty verdict. The only thing that's standing between that is the actual court process, you know, the Sixth Amendment stuff. But why hasn't that process started? What is the rebuttal? What is the rebuttal here except to attack the people that are pointing these things out and indeed killing the messenger? What is the other side of the conversation? This is hard for me to discern. I'm trying to come up with an explanation as to why the Hunter Biden family, the Biden family and Hunter Biden are not guilty of influence peddling. I keep trying to find reasons to report that there may be some doubt here. But our justice system is surrounded by the idea that reasonable doubt is enough to acquit someone of high crimes and misdemeanors, to use the constitutional phrase. Is any exculpatory information available? All I hear from the White House, all I hear from Democrat operatives is how Republicans are simply trying to do a tit for tat with Joe Biden in response to what the Democrat Party did with Donald Trump. The difference is we don't have over 100 suspicious incident reports from the American banking system surrounding Donald Trump. If there were, it would have been splattered all over the front page of the New York Times, Washington Post, NBC, ABC, CBS, long before now. This information is available to that same mainstream media, but nothing has been reported. Certainly not with a vociferous hatred or bile or vitriolic snide nastiness that same kind of information, much weaker if existent at all, was applied against Donald Trump. This is not me lionizing Donald Trump, nor is it me denigrating the Biden family and President Biden and Hunter Biden. This is me pointing out what I see and what Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, evasively denied yesterday. This information has been available for years. What are we waiting for? I mean, can we at least, do it in Washington, D.C.? I don't care. Can we at least convene a grand jury? Can we at least move forward with due process of law? Can we at least do that? Apparently, the answer to that question and others is no. Can you explain it? On the chat room, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, the telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. This is the Wells Report.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. I am the Wells. Good morning. It's Thursday. For you TGIF fans, sure happy it's Thursday. Man, I got to tell you, these weeks go by pretty quickly on this broadcast. We do a lot of work here. We're proud of it. And we're also very, very proud that you spend time in your day. You have a lot of choices, and you spend time in your day with us. Make sure you subscribe to this broadcast. Ring the bell so you know when we're on the air. And please do subscribe. And if you find value in this broadcast, share it with your friends. Thank you. So there is a guy, truly an agent provocateur, who is someone that has come under scrutiny by everyone except the FBI and the Department of Justice. His name is Ray Epps. A lot of people have been talking about Ray Epps for a long, long time. He is the guy that was essentially on video doing exactly what was accused, or what Donald Trump was accused for. And that was fomenting a riot. But yet, all the FBI wanted posters that circulated the entire nation didn't have his picture on them. It was reported by Fox News and Tucker Carlson. Fox News has found a way to settle lawsuits they should fight, in my opinion, and have therefore breathed life into these now lawsuits filed by Ray Epps that we're going to get into in a minute against those organizations and those people. And the thing about it is that there is one thing that differentiates what Ray Epps did versus the people that were arrested. We'll get to that coming up in just a couple of moments. But it came up yesterday in the hearing. Why wasn't Ray Epps under scrutiny by the FBI or the DOJ? It is a mystery. And now there's a lawsuit. Fox News, which recently settled two high-profile legal challenges for approximately $800 million, is now facing a defamation and false light lawsuit from the man who the network presented as a scapegoat, or they say he was presented as a scapegoat, the lawyers responsible for the lawsuit, for the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Ray Epps attended the pro-Trump rallies in Washington in January 2021, and here's the difference. He was not among those people found to have breached the Capitol building, has not been charged with his conduct. Now, political people, and indeed DOJ and FBI officials, were very quick to point out that the language used by President Donald Trump in his speech on that very day fomented the riot. Ray Epps is on video actually telling people to go into the Capitol building, to show them to stop what was going on. And yet nothing, absolutely nothing. But he did not actually go into the Capitol building. Is that the line you must cross to be under DOJ and FBI scrutiny? We don't know. We don't know. So he did attend the rallies, did not go into the Capitol building, and has not been charged for his conduct. In subsequent weeks, then Fox News host Tucker Carlson highlighted a video clip of the Arizona man outside the Capitol to suggest that Epps may have been a government informant, a notion that is denied by both Ray Epps and the FBI. Fox, particularly Mr. Carlson, commenced a years-long campaign spreading falsehoods about Epps, according to the lawsuit, claiming that Epps and his wife Robin have had their lives destroyed by those false claims. The lawsuit filed in Delaware claims that Fox and Carlson knew that Epps was almost definitely not a federal agent, but chose to disregard that knowledge, therefore arguing that the network acted with actual malice, the standard necessary to win a defamation case against a public entity. Quote, Fox News engaged in purposeful avoidance of the truth, intentionally ignoring information and evidence that directly contradicted Fox's outlandish lies about Epps, according to the complaint. Fox News refused to retract, correct, or apologize for its demonstrably false and defamatory accusations against Epps, well after Fox knew definitively that they were false, providing yet another circumstantial evidence of actual malice. Fox thus broadcast its lies about Epps with a high degree of awareness of probable falsity. In a March 23rd letter, a lawyer for Epps, Michael Teeter, demanded that Carlson and Fox News retract their claims about Epps and put the network on notice of potential legal action. The lawyer set a March 31st deadline for a response to the letter, but previously told the Washington Post he did not receive one. The lawsuit marks another moment of accountability for Fox News. Fox News representatives have not returned a call or a request for comment. Epps rose to attention on the right because of videos shot January 5th, the night before the riot, that showed him arguing with Anthony Gionnet, a far-right live streamer who goes by the alias Baked Alaska. In the recording, Epps urged Trump supporters to enter the Capitol January 6th. We need to go into the Capitol. In his lawsuit, Epps claimed he believed parts of the Capitol would be open to the public and that he thought Trump supporters would enter the building lawfully. Epps protested outside the Capitol on January 6th, but was not initially charged. His photo briefly appeared in an FBI website seeking information about various protesters, but was removed in July of 2021 after he was interviewed by agents. In the video of Epps, combined with the fact that he wasn't prosecuted and his photo vanished from the FBI website, became fodder for right-wing conspiracy theorists who claimed that he was planted on the scene by federal agents to provoke otherwise peaceful protesters into committing violence, a notion that trickled into conservative media channels. Carlson began regularly questioning whether Epps was an informant or an undercover figure on his broadcasts, describing him as someone who helped stage manage the insurrection. That is an opinion. That is an opinion. That is not a charge. People can say what they will. It's free speech, you know. Tucker Carlson was opining. Now, on this broadcast, what we do very, very carefully is differentiate between news and opinion. We cite our news sources. We make sure that people understand that this is information in the public domain. What I think about it is something completely different. It is not the news. We do this in a lot of ways. I say, hey, this is my opinion. When I'm going through a news story, for example. Another thing that I do is I talk here instead of here. This is where the news comes. Soon it will be on a camera that's right there. But we make it abundantly clear the difference between news and comment. Did Tucker Carlson do that? I don't know. It appears to me to be a very straightforward assertion of opinion. That is covered by the First Amendment and is not actionable in a court of law, which leads us to Fox News. Fox News, not happy with Tucker Carlson, may indeed just settle the lawsuit. They may just settle. That's what they've done before. Why? Well, to damage Tucker Carlson, to try to make Tucker Carlson a scapegoat for what was being broadcast on Fox News. Now, over the years, let's call them the post-Bill O'Reilly years of Fox News. Bill O'Reilly, of course, canceled because he, got mouthy with some of his female coworkers. So the story goes. He was canceled. And so what ended up happening is that Fox News took a different direction. They moved away from what they called fair and balanced coverage of news. It is essential that you do that. It is essential that you wed yourself to fact and differentiate between opinion and that fact. Had Fox News, Tucker Carlson et al., had they indeed done that, they would be in far less trouble. in fact, the Wells Report, canceled a couple of times by Facebook and once by YouTube, was able to make the case, hey, wait a minute. I'm not giving out misinformation. It's on the very same media sources that are used around the globe to describe the American situation. What I thought about it was clearly differentiated. And in every case, the Wells Report was immediately restored to public broadcasting. Now, I'm not saying this. I'm not saying this to inflate the virtues of this broadcast. What I'm trying to do is tell you that had Fox News been a little bit more careful with regards to the difference between news and commentary, they wouldn't be in this situation. They simply wouldn't be. Moreover, you as a consumer of news must, in this particular era of American news, be able to discern the difference between what the anchor is reporting as news and what the anchor is reporting as their personal viewpoint of it. It used to be federal law that you do that. You had to put up information, either verbal or technical, in other words, these little crawls down here at the bottom, etc., that said editorial or comment or commentary. Those virtues, values, and indeed federal regulations made the American news industry perhaps the greatest public information source in the history of the human endeavor. Now it's muddled. It's not difficult to be able to differentiate between the news and your opinion of it. It's not. I do it every single day. But there is a straight ahead reportage of news here. And I do have to point out in that commentary that Donald Trump was impeached for something that Ray Epps is on video doing. And yet, nobody in the DOJ or FBI has done anything to deal with Ray Epps except for one interview. How did that happen? Just exactly how did that happen? Sounds like a FOIA request to me. Hopefully one of these days we'll be able to get to the bottom of this, perhaps in this trial. But if Fox News decides to just settle it, as they've done in other circumstances, we'll never know. Sometimes making an irritant go away through the payment of money or what have you is the right thing to do. Sometimes you have to stand up and fight for your principles. Fox News is indeed an organization that doesn't clearly differentiate between the news and what they think of it. That's true. But there is no other news organization that does it as well except us. We're the only ones that actually make sure that you know that we're speaking opinion as opposed to news. As a matter of fact, I've said on several occasions, people that do this job, the one that I'm doing right now, that don't do that, are trying to mislead the public. So, would it be reasonable, which is a standard in criminal law, would it be reasonable to believe that Ray Epps was indeed a federal agent of some kind, an informant at some level? Was there indeed money paid from the FBI to Ray Epps? Was there any kind of funding whatsoever? How was Ray Epps able to afford to do all the things that he did and is currently doing? How's he able to do that? I'm not casting any kind of malfeasance on Ray Epps. I'm not. Going into the Capitol is not unprotected speech. That's First Amendment stuff. It is, after all, the people's house. It belongs to us. But when you get in the political maze, the Machiavellian gobbledygook that surrounded President Donald Trump and virtually every policy he put forward, when you get into that mess, then all of these permutations show up. And before you know it, So many people are confused about so many things that no one really knows what's going on. Is that a calculated effort? You tell me. 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. I personally hope that Fox News goes to court with this. But I'm about, I'll put it at 72% sure that they're just going to settle. And we'll never actually know the information that should be known about the conduct of Mr. Ray Epps on January 6th. That's the way I see it. What do you see it as? Give us a call. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in just a moment.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
This is the Wells Report. Thanks very much for being a part of it. Our telephone number, 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Thanks very much for being a part of the show. Before we go, Rhode Island has come up with a law that for those of us in the freelance gig economy may indeed want to pay attention to. As a matter of fact, New Jobs President Mike Harubi talks a little bit about Rhode Island's State Bill 427 and its impact on business owners and those who are self-employed, like yours truly. One Democrat-led state has passed a law that adds costly registration fees and privacy concerns to those who work as independent contractors or freelancers. And labor experts warn this is a test run for other states. In point of fact, that's very American. One of the reasons why we are the United States of America as opposed to the Federal Republic of America is because these states provide an ongoing laboratory of policymaking. Those that work, those that do not work, and the machinations surrounding those policies to make them successful in the public mind or unsuccessful. That's one of the great things about America. There are a lot of different ways to do things. There's a lot of hyperbole involved in this particular law. For example, costly registration fees. The privacy concerns are the most important things for me, but the costly registration fee, I don't know. New Jobs America President Mike Ruby told Fox News, shock and horror is what I'm hearing. There's a lot of background with a bill like this, but there's nothing positive to say from any freelancer, any self-employed person, any driver or delivery individual about this law. According to Mike Ruby of New Jobs America, this is simply a state power grab as far as I can see. In the latest regular legislative session, Rhode Island Democrat Governor Daniel McKee signed State Bill 427 into law. The legislation requires any person who is considered an independent contractor must file a designation form every year and pay $50 to the state's Department of Taxation. The law's text also indicates that failure to file the designation or reclassify as an employee starting next January will result in a felony charge. That's a problem. That's a problem. Quote, it seems like another type of carve-out to single out independent contractors who comprise a good chunk of the small business workforce, said Independent Women's Forum senior fellow Gabriela Hoffman. She was also speaking to Fox News. Over a quarter of the small business workforce are contributing millions, if not billions of dollars to state economies annually. And so even though the fee is very nominal and minimal, it can be seen as a barrier to entry to do this. Rhode Island's more than 85,000 self-employed gig workers make up 27% of the state's small business demographic, according to 2022 data from Nielsberg. Quote, I actually don't think this was on the governor's personal wish list or on the legislature's. I believe this bill was written somewhere else, said Ruby. It was done very carefully. It meets all but one of the drafting standards that unions normally apply, which is sort of vague, very harsh, and completely contrary to the benefit of anyone who wants to be a self-employed independent contractor. Along with the designation form, and this is the problem I have with it, comes a public searchable database, which the state's website claims will list, quote, the relationship between a contractor and the business hiring the contractor. According to both Ruby and Hoffman, this provision could violate a number of individual privacy rights, and indeed it does. They say the form is going to be reported, so everything on that form, this country does not want date of birth as a public piece of information. You don't want your address. This is just rife. This was Mike Ruby speaking. As an anti-competitive issue also exists within the database, according to experts, that it could indirectly promote client poaching or intimidation. Quote, let's say someone wants to target an independent contractor because they don't like them, or maybe they're outspoken against forced reclassification or what have you. This is a tool for labor unions, a way to punish opponents of labor causes. Throughout the history of the United States, there's a vast linkage between both national, state, and local government and unions, because unions decided to jump into the political game and start endowing candidates that they believed were friendly to their cause. That's a problem. That is a problem. Unions are supposed to protect workers. Looks to me like they're protecting their favorite political candidate of either party. It makes no difference. I think that if they proceed, they will be harassed. The forms are going directly to the Revenue Department in Rhode Island. I have good friends who deal with them all the time, not as clients, but Rhode Island's taxation department is very hostile to business, period. All of this makes for a very, very challenging situation. Right. It's $50. But do we really need more public information that used to be private information in the guise of what? Trying to raise revenue? 85,000 workers in Rhode Island. 85 times 50 is what? A lot. And no, it was not lost on me that I couldn't figure out what year it was today. But then again, numbers, letters, so on and so forth. You get to that kind of stuff and it really screws you up. Okay, screws me up. The executive producer of the Wells Report is Dirk Steele, who's shaking his head as we speak. The associate producer is Jude Dankworth. I'm John David Wells. Have a great Thursday. Dokie dokie. So there you go. Let's see. Ann Hoy Guzman says, curiously, AON, Newsmax, and the Pillow Man have had the same lawsuits as the Fox News by the voting machine company, but they refuse to settle out of court. Guess the truth is coming out. The truth will out. I hope that's the case. Hopefully we will find out more. Although there was very damaging information about Dominion that proved to be a major setback based on some now pretty serious evidence regarding those machines from state agencies. So we'll see what happens. I thought that when Fox News ran away from that lawsuit, they made a huge mistake and an expensive one, and we will see. Unions were started to protect workers. Now they protect union leaders. Yep, whether they're political or not, huh, Ann? Thanks very much for being a part of the broadcast again. I sincerely appreciate all of this. Give me a buzz. Tell me what you think. 817-379-2172. And send me an email. The Wells Report at frontier.com. Until tomorrow, the Friday edition of the Wells Report